This is svanik SUAVE. From the 1980s to the 1990s, Indian advertising fell in love with family morals because the television box spoke every night to Indian families watching a television serial on Doordarshan or the likes. Whether it be about cleaning your utensils or washing your clothes or even chewing on pan masala. Indian brands tried to outshine each other by bringing up more and more family friendly images to the screen. But as time passed and companies tried to outsell their ethics, no one would have expected what was to come in 2006 by a brand largely unknown to the country. It wasn't Hot Girls, Shah Rukh Khan, or those 9 out of 10 experts recommending a product. It was just two ordinary long lost brothers who reunited to change Indian ads forever. Besides that pug and Irfan Khan, during this new age of internet virality, this country will never forget the lost and confused duo Ramesh and Suresh, for whom 5-star became a muse.
रमेश, अरे तू यहाँ? सुरेश! अरे कितना बदल गया बे तू? अरे मैं तो रमेश! सुरेश! कितना बदल गया है बे तू? अरे मैं तो यही था यार, मैं क्या बदला?
कैडबरी 5 स्टार की हर बाइट में है चॉकलेट, कैरमल और नोगा, तो बस खाइए और सब भूल जाइए.
The 2000s era of advertising marked a shift from focusing on the product to exaggerated effects of the product to amuse Indian audiences. Famous examples of this include Alpenlebe's personification of animals and Happydent's tooth flashing commercials. However, 5-star decided to take a more grounded approach to this. Instead of taking this fantastical approach to humor, Ramesh, Suresh and their father became a callback to the Indian family and helmed this trope of politically grounded satire.
नमस्कार.
नमस्कार, बैठिए. एक मिनट, कुर्सी मंगवाता हूँ. रमेश, सुरेश, अंकल जी के लिए कुर्सी झट से लेके आओ. बस आते ही होंगे. अरे सुना नहीं?
चलिए अंदर ही बैठते हैं.
हाँ, चलिए आइए. आप बैठिए.
जी, मैं वो लाइब्रेरी कह रहा था कि आपने उसकी वो किताब देनी है, वो आपने पूरा घर जो है किताबें पढ़
दे देंगे यार.
अंकल जी की कुर्सी झट से आ गई.
कैडबरी 5 स्टार में है चॉकलेट, कैरमल और नोगा, तो खाइए और खो जाइए.
And so, brothers Piyush and Prasoon Pandey became the leaders of this trope in Indian advertising, who also directed many more ad campaigns for the likes of Times of India and Fevicol. In fact, Prasoon Pandey became responsible for directing the greatest Ramesh Suresh ad ever.
जी बिल्कुल सही. हाँ जी.
रमेश, सुरेश,
जनाब करते क्या है?
मास्टर जी, पिताजी की पतलून एक बिलांग छोटी कर दो.
अच्छा, वो भी दर्जी है. 20 ले लो. हाँ जी बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
मास्टर जी, पिताजी की पतलून एक बिलांग छोटी कर दो.
बीए कर रही हैं. 30 ले लो. देख लो जैसा आप कहें.
अबे मास्टर जी, पिताजी की पतलून एक बिलांग.
कैडबरी 5 स्टार की हर बाइट में है चॉकलेट, कैरमल और नोगा, तो बस खाइए और खो जाइए.
But as times move on, advertising giant Ogilvy India realizes that these two-man children are now past their prime. It's time to move with something new, something fresh, something bolder, and possibly a bit more controversial. In 2019, 5-Star launched a new campaign called Do Nothing. Do Nothing was a risky strategy with a central irony that sometimes in this world full of conflicts, responsibilities, and hard work, the best thing to do is to do nothing. This was also the first message given by the brand directly to its audiences. I spent such a long time trying to figure out this campaign until I finally got the point behind it.
Stop talking, my friend. Give up. Let the essay take over you.
I feel like I'm Winnie the Pooh, and this is like my honey. What a sublime imagination.
Winnie the Pooh is the ultimate Taoist sage, at least according to the author Benjamin Hoff in his best-selling book on Taoism and Winnie the Pooh. According to Hoff, Winnie the Pooh, with his carefree, effortless way of floating through life, exemplifies the Taoist concept of Wu Wei. Wu Wei can be translated in a lot of different ways: actionless action, non-action, inaction, non-deliberate action, or non-interference.
The concept of Wu Wei is a deeper term to describe doing nothing. What 5-Star says as a joke actually has its origins in old Chinese philosophy. This is SUAVE, and here's how this chocolate destroys everything you've done in life. The Do Nothing ads initially had a fairly interesting structure. They first present a problem in front of a young man,
Hello, chalo.
after which we are given a set of arbitrary choices that the character might make, leading to suspense. But being a consumer of the caramelicious 5-Star, these characters lose their presence of mind and do nothing.
Oh, hello, chalo.
And this leads to a comical twist. Not doing anything transitions to become a miraculous solution to the life problem. And 5-Star vouches for this celebration of nothingness.
Thank you यार तूने कुछ नहीं किया मुझे मेरे हलो और चलो मिल गए
You're most welcome.
Let's go.
कभी कुछ ना करके भी देखो. Eat 5-Star, do nothing.
But I never thought it would also become something controversial. The campaign drew flack for its bold premise in an ad that showed an old lady drop her stick. She then requests the boy in front of her to pick it up.
बेटा मेरी छड़ी उठा दोगे?
जी माँ जी.
थैंक यू.
And although the boy acknowledges, by now we know his old habit. Some people were disgusted by how the youth was portrayed in relation to elders, and that's a bit understandable for a country that's only seen a majority of family-friendly ads with role models and messaging that's for the good of society. I promise we'll return to this ad later on in the video, because a Taoist analysis of do nothing can help recontextualize such a radical picture. While most of us are naturally going to think doing nothing is a bad idea and means laziness, let me introduce you to a man who thinks otherwise. Where do I even start with this legend? Zhuangzi is a certified dude who gave no shits about what people called him. This one-of-a-kind, infamous philosopher was known to have been offered several high positions to serve the Chinese emperor, but he rejected them and ridiculed high officials for even mentioning it. Zhuangzi spat on the ideals of men like Confucius and hated rituals, refusing to be buried for his own death. Zhuangzi tries to make the case that in this world, there are some surprising and healthy advantages of Wu Wei or doing nothing. As one of his most famous saying goes, everybody knows the use of usefulness, but nobody knows the use of uselessness. For Zhuangzi, when someone is worth nothing, he has the potential to live life the way it should be lived. In his entire book, there is no better metaphor for this than the parable of the useless tree, which refers to this very old unwieldy tree that appears completely unworthy for a carpenter due to its poor quality of timber. But the irony is, while all other trees are cut down for their beautiful timber, it is this ugly tree that gets to keep its life. The secret to its longevity is thus hidden in its unworthiness to carpenters and society. Similarly, Zhuangzi connects this idea to human psychology and asks us to empty ourselves of the things we consider useful. This is exactly opposite of what the world of self-help has told us in the last century. People are constantly trying to shape you into a role, responsibility, reputation, or good name. They expect you to be useful to them in some way or the other. And such advice does work on people who spend days sitting on their couch, gaming and eating junk. But isn't there a bigger harm that we are facing when we delude ourselves into making the rules and responsibilities our entire life? And when it comes to the moral picture in the age of internet, one person's good is another person's evil. You could feed a poor family food and then be attacked by PETA because they were non-vegetarian. So the question is PETA's morality right or is your morality right? According to Zhuangzi, morality is a leech that sucks out our inborn nature. Heroes of the past become villains in the present day. The greater problem with this is that it drives us to do things in a certain set way, to adopt a ritualistic way of living, and it is in this ritual that the real villain lies.
Blah, 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 blah.
Imagine the time when you or someone close to you had to perform on a stage and were anxious about impressing the crowd or winning the first prize. It's a time when your greatest fears about yourself come to haunt you. Zhuangzi says that an external prize clumsies the internal body. Butterflies start running in your stomach. You start losing sleep when you are made to rule the world. Such a state of anxiety brings unimaginable amounts of daily stress to people all over the world, irrespective of whether you're giving a sales pitch, performing in public, or designing a logo. Everyone can be seen going crazy behind promotions, titles, goodwill, subordinating themselves like animals to their superiors. The subordination to an external prize, thus damaging your internal body, is the key problem with deliberate action intended to impress. It is dishonest and contrary to the human condition. At this point, a very practical doubt might come to your mind. If nothing is worth doing and morality is futile, then is 5-star and Zhuangzi trying to tell us to quit our jobs and livelihood? Should we just stop living and start eating chocolates? To this, Zhuangzi issues a stern clarification. To not do something doesn't mean to quit what's already happening in your life. Such things are unavoidable in the process of living, eating, and socializing. But to do something deliberately means to limit yourself to achieving it, to be dependent on it either for your happiness, livelihood, passion, or some other reason. Rather, if you can be detached to the external world while doing the act, thus forgetting about any success and failure, you can become independent of it. Only when this mindset is in place can a person manage to achieve Wu Wei.
Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
And this effortless approach to life is the most liberating part of Taoist philosophy.
हो गया? I'm done, sir.
कथक या डिस्को?
Oh, I said dancer, and he made a dancer.
What a connection! Beautiful.
By forgetting the good name that will come with laughing at the joke,
घर जा रोहन? They'll manage.
the employee gets free from work early.
Okay, sir.
काम कर लें?
कभी कुछ ना करके भी देखो. Eat 5-star, do nothing.
In this way, doing nothing is not only an honest way to living, but also has its miracles because you're not acting like sheep to the system. So now that we have defined what doing something looks like and why we shouldn't do it, what is the ideal for doing nothing? 99% of our lives are spent unconsciously breathing, Because only after we forget that we are breathing can we do it effortlessly. What doing nothing really involves is effortless, spontaneous living without a deliberate initiative. Just like how a bird sings, a lion hunts, and a human dreams with such immense grace exactly because they are not doing it for some petty human incentive. It's something that's just happening to them naturally. Imagine a bird singing only to win Saregama. The result won't be so pure and beautiful. And this indifference towards performing for something external is why a bird's voice is so heavenly. But us humans, we don't get this. To explain this to humans in a language they would understand, a rather controversial and provocative example by Zhuangzi of the art of forgetting is that of a drunk person walking on a road. He loses his consciousness and forgets about the world around him, and yet he can unconsciously maintain his balance. This ability of walking after forgetting how to consciously walk, singing after forgetting how to impress someone, and steering a boat after forgetting the water around you is the ability of doing nothing and yet doing something.
In other words, if you pattern your actions according to the natural laws or principles of the universe, you will effortlessly arrive where you should be.
Let's return to address that controversial 5-star ad. Becoming conscious of what just happened to the old lady.
थैंक यू बेटा अच्छा हुआ तूने कुछ नहीं किया
She starts to believe that it was ultimately the young boy's inaction that led her life to be saved.
Eat 5-star, do nothing.
But to me, this ad always stood to be funny over and above anything else. 5 Stars Do Nothing campaign has already established their ironic stance. And within that context, it's obvious to me that 5 Star isn't trying to promote any indifference towards elders in the real world. The underlying lesson that I gauge from a Taoist perspective is that yes, realistically we must help out an old woman whenever necessary. But this must be a spontaneous decision, not a deliberate action meant to gain a good name or reputation. Because as the ad ultimately conveys, sometimes the action you thought would do you good can turn out to be fatal. The world works in mysterious ways far beyond our speculation and understanding. And we must unlearn our learned self-righteousness and let things go. In the brilliant words of Mencius, a great man is he who doesn't lose the heart of an infant. And an infant is perhaps the only creature in this world who does nothing and yet lives perfectly, has no knowledge of right and wrong, and is also effortlessly charming without realizing it. For us adults, to retain an infancy means to quickly forget what you do and thus carry out affairs effortlessly in this world, to become like water and allow the world to shape them. Following the pages of the 5-star playbook, humor is not just an important tool to convey the message of doing nothing, but a humorous approach to infancy and effortless action also gives us a crucial maxim.
थोड़ा चड्डी लूज करो है ना
चड्डी लूज रख यार सही में भाई.
Unlike the carefree infant, so many people have tightened their underwears to live a life of rigid morals and identities. Most of us have forgotten to breathe out and not take life so seriously. I wish you all the best, and I hope you do nothing moving ahead in life. And do not stop your finger from spontaneously going for that subscribe button.